we're gonna add some cool plants to the garden this morning, hopefully prune a couple things, get start on some maintenance. We're overlapping now. I've got about 16 trays of annuals to put in here in the next week. Well, some of them are perennials as well. We've gotten a lot of the perennial plants planted, a lot of the larger things planted. Some of the things we have left to plant, though, are really interesting things that we're adding to the garden over here, and over here to the new native garden as well. If you're following along with the channel, you'll see some of those things coming up. But first thing in this video, we put in this Salivatki Pomegranate. This one is really cold hardy. So if you want to grow a pomegranate, you're in like zone 6B. This is the one for you. It's reputedly cold hardy down to 6 below 0, which is pretty interesting. They're pretty plants regardless. I mean, anytime I ever see a pomegranate being grown with a little bit of space around it and where it can get pretty big, the fruit is beautiful whether you eat it or not. You know, the fruit's beautiful red color on it. We go to a restaurant here in Raleigh that has 2 or 3 that have been allowed to get some size on them over time, and they're really, again, beautiful plants overall. They are thorny, so keep in mind this is a plant that you don't, when you're putting it in the ground, it's not the funnest of planting jobs you'll ever do. Very spiny, barberry-like thorns on them that seems like no direction that you can handle this thing, that it's not going to try to bite you back. This is a self-fruiting pomegranate, or self-fertile pomegranate, but any self-fertile plant does better with more than one. You know, we don't put more than one of anything out here, so I'll probably, when this thing's in flower, just come over here and give it a shake, perhaps to pollinate it. We do have a dwarf pomegranate in the back. Don't know if they, don't know if they fertilize one another or not. I have no idea. I just don't know enough about them in that regard to know if every pomegranate will pollinate the next one. It's probably very specific. But anyway, this one is self-fruiting. If you have 2, it's the same thing with blueberries or anything else somebody tells you self-fertile. If you get more than one, they tend to set better fruit overall. But love this plant. When it's leafing out, it has that burgundy new growth on it. The leaves settle into a really lustrous, shiny green as the season goes on. It has kind of a reddish stems as well. And then really pretty much an upright, narrow habit to these. They can be kept pretty narrow. Ultimately will bush out to, this thing can get 10 or 12 feet tall and 6 or 8 feet wide if we were to ultimately let it over here. I've got a smaller growing blueberry on the other side of the fence. We'll see how we work with this in the future, but I can keep it narrower and tree form it where the bushy part's up here, and it's not down here in the future. But there you go. Really interesting, very cold hardy pomegranate, giving you the opportunity to maybe grow pomegranates in some colder areas. Up the line just a little bit, trying to get this line established over here. There's a lot of fruit plants along here, and then and several native perennials, a few other things. And then when you get up here, a few smaller growing shrubs that we actually, a couple of which we haven't ever talked about yet, but we will in upcoming content now that some things are starting to fill in. This is an Indian hawthorn called Spring Sonata, and we're going to jump over and show you the other 2 Indian hawthorns in the garden in just a second. This one gets 4 to 5 feet in height, and I put it on the small screening plant video. Plants that can be used as low hedges. I think we called it low hedges or low screening plants or something a week or 2 ago. I included it on there because this is a really good option for having something that's 4 or 5 feet. Not everybody needs a screen that's 15 feet tall, or maybe you need something around a patio that just gives you a little privacy while you're sitting, but you don't necessarily want to put the entire garden in a prison, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean, where it's completely walled off. So good choice for that. 4 to 6 feet mounding habit, white flowers in the spring, kind of a purplish berry on it later in the season. If you have deer are very fond of Indian hawthorn, so they need to either be close up to your foundation or probably not used if you have heavy deer pressure in your area. But other than that, really easy, low maintenance ornamental plants. It's finishing flowering, and when it starts to leaf out a bit, the new growth has a kind of a burgundy hue to it, which is also pretty interesting. But just a well-behaved mounding evergreen plant. This one happens to get about this tall. I'll show you a couple others now. That spring Sonata is part of the Clean Sweep series of Indian hawthorns. There's just 2 right now, but I think there are more coming. These are been bred for really great disease resistance, because some of the old varieties of Indian hawthorn have leaf spot issues that thin them out. Old Snow White and several others that have just been sold for years and years and years. It kind of collapsed a bit in the garden over the 30 or 40 years that they've been selling them. But this Clean Sweep series are just really literally perfect foliage on them. But that's Clean Sweep Spring Sonata, and this is Clean Sweep Snowbank. And you can see how compact it is. That's 3 years in the ground and hasn't been pruned once. And it's coming into flower now. And you can see that what I'm talking about that kind of little reddish hue to it has on the new growth as the flowers are finishing up. And that's about all the growing it'll do. It'll only grow 4 or 5 inches a year. So you can prune this after flowering in the spring. I could cut it in half if I wanted to right now, literally, but I don't need to. But if I needed to, I could, and it'll just flush right back out from that. And then Rosalinda, which we've shown several times recently because it's in full bloom right now. That's almost a tree. So there's the differences in some Indian hawthorns. This Rosalinda will get the one at the Ralston is probably 15 feet tall and 15 feet wide as a tree. Very, very fragrant flowers. They're much less fragrance in the dwarf ones. So there's Rosalinda that gets 15 feet tall, Spring Sonata that gets 4 to 6 feet tall, and Snowbank, which gets 2 to 3 feet tall. I added this foolproof gardenia to this front path that comes off the driveway. It should contrast nicely with a couple ground cover perennials that we have out here. These bulbs, of course, daffodils will die back pretty quickly, and we have a swath of annuals that are going behind this, and so the annual color should contrast with this nicely. Gardenias can be fairly temperamental in our clay soil, so I do mound them up a bit, and I've got this one in a place that drains pretty well. It drops off right here beside it, away from it pretty quickly, so it should be fine here. Like acid soils, I got everything going for me except for that clay-based soil that sometimes they just don't like. But this, again, the water gets out of here pretty quickly, so it shouldn't be an issue. It doesn't mean it needs to be bone dry. It just means that when you water it, hopefully the water doesn't sit there, for days and days and days in a soup, basically. The interesting thing about foolproof, so frostproof gardenia, I had that plant at my nursery years and years, a long, long, long time ago, and it was sent to me by accident originally, and I knew that there was a difference in about 20. I got these liners in a box. I was ordering some Radicans gardenia liners just to get started on growing some Radicans. And in the box were just a few plants that were more upright and tall. Same kind of leaf though as Radicans gardenia. And I grew them out in ended up growing them out in 3-gallon containers, and they were just perfect, like what you're looking at right here. I mean, just absolutely perfect plants. Really easy to grow in a nursery setting. Very floriferous, bloomed like crazy. And I ended up growing literally hundreds of thousands of those things over several years. I was growing 5,000 for several different nurseries in gallon containers, rooting them and growing them. But the one thing with frostproof is it does stretch out a bit, and it can be a little bit floppy, and the landscape gets a little bigger than some people want it. So Buddy went to work on it, Buddy Lee, the Encore Azalea inventor, and had selected this one because the leaf internodes are much closer together. If you look on frostproof gardenia, the leaves are about this far apart on the stems, and they really stretch out quite a bit when they grow, and that's what causes that kind of open, more floppy behavior that frostproof can exhibit. This one, the leaf internodes are much closer together, so when it flushes out, it's a much sturdier little stem, okay? And it keeps it more compact and less likely to flop open. Just the same exact double white fragrant flowers that you would expect. But I really like this. I really like this plant. I've been drawn to it a lot because I grew frostproof for so long, and I know how it would look in this 3-gallon container versus what this one looks like going into the ground. So we'll grow this one out here and observe it and show you guys as it comes into flower sometime in May. I added this Camellia japonica this morning to the back garden, this little middle space back here that we opened up by moving viburnum nudum over to the native garden, and moving out one of the, we originally had 3 white wedding hydrangeas back here and a butterfly bush and that viburnum nudum, and we just kind of rearranged things a bit. We moved one of the 3 white weddings out to the street out there, which gets a lot more sun. Left one in place here. These things bloom beautifully. It's really one of my absolute top hydrangea paniculatas for sure. It holds the flowers up big and tall, but added this snow sickle oak leaf hydrangea in a video, I guess last week as you're looking at this. And then this camellia japonica went in today. Got this one from Mr. Maple. He sent it over to us. We unboxed. I didn't do the unboxing on video other than just without sound because it's been pretty wild. We've had a lot of events going on and jumping in here, getting all these things in the ground and staying occupied doing that. But this is Jack's camellia, which is, we've shown this a few times around the neighborhood and other places. This is probably the best overall named camellia japonica variety for form and flower combined. So, if you're taking into account, which one is the best overall plant that's, fullest top to bottom, big shiny green leaves, you would call Jack's. And then if you were going to name what is the best pure, really formal double camellia japonica flower, I don't think you would beat this one with any comparison. There would be some others that are equal, that have just as big of beautiful, perfect double flowers as this one, but nothing's going to beat it. So that combination of form and flower puts it right at the top. Typically, we try to put things, put some things in this garden that are completely different, introducing new things and that kind of thing. But this one's just impossible to resist. I mean, this is one that I can show off in other gardens and other places. But this one's just, again, it's impossible to resist. Even in that little 2-gallon container, look how perfect that little plant is. So it should be perfect back here, part sun, part shade. It's kind of the ideal condition, zone 7 to 9 and zone 7A because of the map changes. Those of you who got moved into zone 7A from 6B may not be completely cold hardy for you unless you really get it tucked in someplace up around the house without winter wind on it. But everybody in zone 7B to 9, this is, again, probably the best overall form and flower camellia japonica. We added our first mugo pine to this garden. We're on the very southern end of where mugo pines do well, but we do see them. I mean, there are all over Raleigh, at the Ralston, other places. So we're not so far south that we have to do anything really crazy to them. But they do need their roots a bit protected here. As you go further north, it would need nothing. It would just need to be planted or really in the sun. Eventually, I'm going to move. This one gets like 3 by 3, so it's a very small growing mugo pine. There's a lot of. We were up at Isley. Was that year before last now? I want to get back. The place is like a candy store up there. They have a whole dwarf line of mugo pines. What were they called? Do you remember? I can't remember right this minute, but if you go back and look at anything we did at Isley, they have a whole series of dwarf mugo pines that are really quite small in the landscape. So this one's in kind of a crowded neighborhood here, but I kind of want these annuals growing and perennials growing around it initially, just to keep the roots cool on it while it grows a little bit. In 10 years, it'll occupy, a space like this. And so I need to move this Everillo Carex in 4 years. So don't panic that it's crowded in here. It's going to be in no hurry to occupy any more space than it's in right now. This one is called Real Sparkler, and it has a new chartreuse, kind of variegated foliage to it. It got a little bit of new growth on it now, so we'll show that in the B-roll over the next few weeks. It should come out with a little more. This is another one we got from Mr. Maple. And so Mr. Maple obviously has a lot of Japanese maples, but we also love the conifer collection that they have as well. There's quite a few conifers in this garden that we've gotten from them, and we're really drawn to conifers. We also there's another Japanese maple going in just a minute that we got from them. And I think I don't know how many Japanese, I don't know that we intended on a few things now, hosta, butterfly bushes, loropetalum, So a few and Japanese maples. There's a few things now we've kind of become collectors. Akuba, we're on our way with Akuba too. Abelia, we have a lot of different Abelia here in the garden. So it's easy to become a collector of some things, especially when they're easy. You know, the easier things that, you know, perform well in your garden. You can, the one that you bought that was kind of the basic one wherever you bought it, then you can go and explore all of the variation within it, you know, in other specialty nurseries and that kind of thing. So one more thing to plant in this video, and then we're going to do a little pruning. Added this very small, slow growing Japanese maple here under the loropetalum. Loropetalum is about to get some work done on it. But this one is called Green Twinkle. This is one of Talon Buchholz's introduction. This one has really, really fine textured leaves on it and gets absolutely incredible red fall color. So we'll be showing this one off some here in the garden, but some of these really slow growing, this is the kind of room that we have. We want super interesting plants in these few holes that we have left here in this garden, but it's kind of hard to find something that will only stay, you know, a certain size in a very long period of time. So that mugo pine definitely fits that example, and so does this Japanese maple. This will be, you know, I can keep it here by 3 feet over the next 10 years without any problem. This is another one from Mr. Maple, and from, I think we unboxed 4 things. We have a native white pine that's gonna go into the native garden over there. That was the 4th thing that Matt and Tim sent us from Mr. Maple. So one of the updates on the native garden over there, you'll see that white pine go in. Really interesting blue foliage white pine that we'll put in a video there. The palm grew a lot this winter, and I'm gonna go ahead and take off, go ahead and limit up just a bit. One thing I see on these windmill palms is where they haven't been cleaned up from the bottom for years. You get these kind of fading pieces down at the bottom. It just doesn't look good. It looks best when it just has this like last year and this year's growth up at the top of it and the rest of it taken off. But slowly but surely, now I can walk through here. I've been waiting to be able to walk through here for a while. I'll leave this, but by next year, I mean, I'll just be able to walk completely around it. Really has picked up pace. Everything has really picked up pace because that's the way it goes in the garden. This is our pathway to go for water hose to come through here. So I do like to keep this a bit open. This emerald snow loropetalum really grew a lot this year, and I kind of like the height it's at right now. And so it just finished blooming. You prune these after flowering. If you own the weekly garden planner or the Learn to Garden video series, I put both on both of them. I have the pruning times for hundreds of different shrubs. So if you just look up loropetalum on the shrub pruning chart, it says prune after flowering. So that'll tell you that it just finished flowering. It's time to prune it if you need to prune it. If you don't need to prune it, it doesn't, not everything has to be pruned. This plant though, I'm trying to keep in about I want it blooming at about 5 feet every year. So really I need to cut it down to more like 3 feet because it's going to respond with about 2 feet of growth during the season and then bloom again. It'll bloom some in the fall and bloom fully again in the spring. But rather than meatball it, I can take this vertical branch that's come up so high and just track this back into the plant some, okay? And just prune this thing down here, okay? It'll leave a little bit of a gap for a minute, but look, I took all that material out, you know, again, without meatballing it. I wanna leave it, it's going to be a hair thin just because I probably let it get a bit more up than I would normally have done it before I cut it. But again, this is just a matter of taking the spiky growth and not just cutting it at the top of the plant, which is what we would do if we meatballed it. This is a bigger stem. So if I just meatball it right to the, if I just cut this to the height of the rest of the plant, right there with the head shear, then that branch is obviously more vigorous. And within a couple of weeks, it's going to be spiking back up again. So we follow that more vigorous branch a little further down in the plant and cut it off there. Ow. Okay. All right. Well, I tried to stab myself. Okay. All right. And then here's another one. Same thing. I'll just go chase it down into the plant a bit and cut it off like that. One that's coming out over this direction, chase it in there, cut it off. If it's a little wider than you want, it can be the same exact operation. all the way around. But I want to leave it again where it's kind of got that, still got that weeping habit that it takes on in the garden. And if you've got a branch that is over top of another plant or something like that, then we'll take those off. I'll let Steph spin around and show you how much I had to cut that purple daydream loropetalum over there. I had let that one get really, really wide. I did the exact same operation, sorry, and within a week or two, it'll be flushing back out, but it was sitting over top of that boxwood. And so I had to get it back far enough that when it flushes back out, it won't be sitting on top of that boxwood again. So that was the operation over there. You can see how many trays and flats and everything we have over here to plant here in the next week, or really this next week. We've got to get this stuff. We got to get this stuff in the ground. It's just time to take care of it. But this is my meatball avoidance pruning, is what I would call it. And I still leave it looking okay. Sometimes the color is different underneath. That purple variety over there has a little green underneath it because way down in the plant it doesn't have sunlight, so it wasn't as purple. But now that it's got some sunlight on it, it'll be purple again. These are cuts though that you can make, tracking that in there and make the cut, and you don't even know the cut's been made if you're kind of selective in how you're pruning. You prune back to a branch that's coming out sideways on it. If you show that stuff right here, you see this branch that's sticking up big and tall. If I just go down here and cut it to a spot where it's forked, let's do that one as an example. When I cut it, you really can't tell that I cut it. I may follow that one down in there just a little bit more because it's a little taller than I want it, but that's my example. Just cut it to a spot where it's split and you really can't tell that you've pruned it. But it was this tall. I've gotten this much height out of it. It doesn't look like I've turned it into a meatball, and within a week or two, it'll have new growth all over it, and you won't even know I pruned it at all. As you're watching this, the channel recently went over 250,000 subscribers, but believe it or not, only about 30% of the views on this channel are from subscribers. So there's a lot of people watching that aren't subscribed to the channel, and I normally don't talk about that during the videos, but if you would subscribe to the channel, I would definitely appreciate that. And if you are subscribed to the channel, you'll get alerted to videos going up because we have just pruned that purple daydream and that emerald snow loropetalum. I've got to really tackle the big one over here now, the Carolina Midnight, and we've got larger osmanthus to prune. A lot of these flowering shrubs, as they come out of finished flowering here in the next week or so, we'll get a little bit of pruning on them to size control them. We have so many plants out here that we have to size control some things in order to have this many plants in this garden and have it be this layered and textured and everything. Requires some pruning. It's not as much work as you think it is. If I wasn't running my mouth on the camera, I could have pruned all of these shrubs this morning very, very quickly. And I wasn't gonna edit a video later about it. I could have this done pretty quickly. And it's a once a season, twice a season kind of thing, because what I'm trying to do is get the plant down to a point where I can allow it to come back out the rest of that season and not prune it again, so that when it comes back into flower the next year, it looks like that. And it doesn't look like if I only prune it, if I just barely meatball this thing, I'm gonna have to meatball it like 3 times this season, because every time it gets shaggy, it's not gonna look good anymore. So I meatball, 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 meatball. And then when it comes into flower, I've cost myself a lot of flowers because I pruned it too much, and it looks like a meatball and it needs to be pruned again immediately. So if I just go ahead and just say, okay, let's just take this thing down 2 feet, because I know it's gonna grow 2 feet this year. This is what it ends up looking like when it flowers. Or this was in full flower a week or so ago. If you've been following along with the videos, it was just absolutely covered in pinkish red flowers, top to bottom. So there you go, follow along with it, and you'll see more coming up. We've got, I think, as I'm filming this, about 16 trays of annuals and a few perennial things that are going in, including the vegetable garden. Thanks for watching.